Hi there, this is Matt with State Flux here with a review for the Book of Clarence. This is one that I've been kind of interested in talking about. I saw it a couple of days ago over this weekend, but wanted to really ruminate on it. This isn't one to really jump the gun and start talking about, because if you do, I think you're going to lose some of the nuance the movie has to offer. This is a movie of relatively high quality, however carrying with it some pretty glaring issues. Book of Clarence is about sort of a lost book of the Bible, if you will, following a man named Clarence, who's a twin brother, one of whom is in Jesus's inner circle. This is obviously a period piece set around the time of the Last Supper. And Clarence is a non-believer. Not only is he a non-believer, he's a firm atheist and does not believe anything of what Jesus is doing. However, when he finds himself in a spot of trouble, Clarence decides the only way to acquire the money that he needs is to become a Messiah himself. And so he and a couple close friends are going to manipulate people into thinking that he is the Messiah, equal to the powers of Jesus Christ himself. And it's a pretty interesting and compelling story. And the way that belief is woven into the story, as well as agnosticism and how we kind of create false idols or false messiahs and whatnot, is pretty interesting and compelling. This is stuff that I like. But where this movie really struggles is the first 20 to 30 minutes and the last 10 minutes, I think, are where the movie is at its weakest. So much so that I saw this movie over the past weekend, and about 20 minutes in, I almost walked out of the movie. It was so choppy, nothing was resonating for me. I opted to stay there, and I'm glad I did. But the movie should have opened with a bang, in the sense that it literally opens with like a chariot race, and that should have been engaging, and it wasn't, and nothing was connecting with me at all. And I never walk out of movies. I can't tell you the last time I walked out of a movie. I think if I really had to think about it, it was in 2006 when I saw the remake of The Hitcher with Sean Bean. And the only reason I walked out of that is because my wife was not interested in the movie, and she wasn't feeling good, and she's like, "You work at a video store. Why don't you just wait for a video? Let's go." And we left. That was the last time I walked out of a movie, but I came this close with this one, just because nothing at all was working for me. But then something shifts in that last part of the first act, and it got me invested a little bit. That's kind of when the story picks up of Clarence making a decision to kind of explore the idea of making himself seem more than he truly is. The second act is where he is being the false messiah, and that is incredible. The second act of this movie is stunning. I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite scenes in the entire film is when Clarence goes to Mother Mary and asks how her son performs his tricks, and she's like, "I assure you, they are not tricks." And then they start, her and Joseph start chatting with Clarence, who's being incredibly rude if all the stories are true, and if not, he's catching on to some of the lies, and that aspect is played really, really well. It helps certainly that Alfre Woodard plays Mary, and she is so good. She's one of my favorite actresses. And watching her and Lakeith act off each other is just great. This movie stars Lakeith Stanfield. The movie works entirely because of him. He sells the qualities of this film higher than they could have ever been sold if he were not involved in it. And he gets help. There's R.J. Cyler, who's his co-star, he is really good. I'd only ever seen him in one other thing, which was the Power Rangers movie. He played Billy, and I thought he was one of the better aspects of that movie, which is a movie I quite liked as well. But he shines in this, as does Omar Sy. The cast really helps to buoy and elevate the film. But the second act, Book 2 is what it's split into 3 chapters. Book 2 is fantastic. If this movie had been more like that all the way through or at that level of quality, I would have loved this movie. As is, we get to Book 3. And Book 3, for the most part, works. There's a moment where the sun parts the clouds and you get a truly miraculous moment that is executed better than any other kind of biblical story I've ever seen. And the way that Lakeith plays it and the way that James McAvoy, who's the villain of the film, plays it, and McAvoy is great. Watching those two act opposite each other was also a pretty damn good highlight. But how they interact with this moment is just truly fantastic. And then the movie goes a direction in the final 10-15 minutes or so where it just hits the exact same beats that we're familiar with, to the point where it's like, this isn't the right direction this story should have been. It's just rehashing events that we are all familiar with. And I didn't like that. The film also has a stealth Benedict Cumberbatch, and that was a choice, and a weird one, and I think I know where they're going with all of his plot. But I also don't know that it was executed well at all. It's kind of funny, but and this movie is kind of a comedy, but it works better when it's being more of a self-serious drama. But yeah, I wasn't in, like, the last 15 minutes don't torpedo the movie by any stretch of the imagination. They're just not nearly as good as the hour of screen time that came before it, but nowhere near as bad as the first 20 to 30 minutes where I wanted to, like, just dip. So yeah, I'm conflicted with this one. It has ideas, and it sells them to you to some extent, but I think some of those ideas are still baking, and I don't think it just comes together well. And that's kind of a big disappointment. I think if they were to take another stab at the final 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, I would have kind of loved it. As is, it's my favorite movie of 2024 so far, and I do recommend that you see this because Lakeith Stanfield gives my favorite performance that I've ever seen him give, and he is a truly phenomenal actor. He almost made Haunted Mansion work, and that movie was a piece. He successfully makes this movie work. And I can't wait to see what he does next. He's one of the most gifted actors of the current generation. Let me know what you thought of this film if you went out and saw it. I was, I guess, kind of hoping for a little more or a little better. But ultimately, I like it. I give it a firm 3 stars. It probably is deserving of a little more than 3 stars, but I really hated those first 20 minutes, and I was rubbed the wrong way with the rehash of an ending that we get. So let me know what you thought of this film in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and peace.